Hello, everyone. Wonderful to be here with you today, even if only virtually. You're here with me in the Another Story basement or dungeon, where there's a lot of books around, obviously, and I thought this would be a good place to give you my picks. I thought I would start with On the Trapline by David A. Robertson and Julie Flett. This is a really moving book about a young boy who goes up north with his mashom to take a look at the area where his mashom grew up, which is follows a trap line or a place where their family would live off the land. And it David A. Robertson manages to use very deceptively simple sentences to convey a lot of emotion. As the boy is learning about the trapline and how it worked, his grandfather is re-experiencing those memories and conveying it to his relative, and it's very moving. Julie Flett's images work very well with David A. Robertson's style, and you can see how they were successful in creating their previous book, When We Were Alone, which was nominated for a Governor General Literary Award. I believe it won, actually. And I could see the similar thing happening with On the Trap Line. It is similarly very powerful. It also includes a glossary in the back of Swampy Cree. Throughout the story, there's a lot of moments where David A. Robertson uses a lot of Swampy Cree words and conveys exactly what those mean, and you can go over those meanings in the back as well. The second book I wanted to talk about is Many Shapes of Clay by Kenesha Sneed. Let's get that glare. So this is a picture book about healing, as the subtitle says. It's about a young girl who works with her mother, who's an artist, on some clay and creates a lemon shape. That shape reminds her of her father, who is no longer in the picture. It's not really clear exactly what happened to him, but you're aware that he is no longer around and she misses him. And she loves this object so much that she carries it everywhere. She ends up breaking it, actually, and her mother has to help her figure out what to do with those shapes when they're broken, what to do to move on from that. And as you can see, it also doubles as a little bit of discussion about what to do when you lose something. How do you move forward? In this case, it's taking those pieces and making something else beautiful with it. But it could be really good if you're trying to discuss death or any other kinds of loss. It's Many Shapes of Clay, A Story of Healing by Kenesha Sneed. There we go. The next one is a series that you might be familiar with called Storytelling Math. It's a series that uses stories, very engaging stories, to convey mathematical concepts. This one is called Bracelets for Bina's Brothers. It takes place around Raksha Bandhan, which is a Hindu festival that celebrates the relationship between family, especially siblings. And in this tradition, it's typical for a sister to give a bracelet to her brother. And in this case, she has three brothers, so Bina has to figure out exactly how to make those bracelets, especially because her brothers all have different tastes in colors. So through trying to figure out what colors to use, Bina ends up using a lot of different colors interchangeably. So it ends up being a book about patterns and how to see patterns and read them and put them together. There's a lot more information about this in the back of the book as back matter, and so you could use it as a teaching tool as well. So that's Bracelets for Bina's Brothers. There's another one in the series that came out around the same time, which is Usha and the Big Digger. So this one is more about constellations and shapes, and this one is great. They're both own voices. They're by South Asian authors and by South Asian illustrators. So I think this is a really cool series to have in your collection. thought I'd move on and talk about one of our staff's favorite books, favorite new books, I should say, Jojo McCoon's and They Used to Be Best Friend by Don Quigley, illustrated by Tara Audibert. This is a chapter book about a young Ojibwe girl, and it follows her as she lives her life on a reservation. It's just a really fun book. JoJo is a very engaging character. She's kind of quirky. She has a lot of energy. And she tends to get into little snags here and there. Nothing too serious, but you're always kind of entertained for the ride. There is her two best friends. There's her cat, who's her best friend at home, and her friend Fern, who's her best friend at school. At some point, she decides to bring her best friend at home, her cat, to school, and there's a lot of hijinks that ensues there. There's some other jokes about rhyming because JoJo has some trouble figuring out how rhymes work. It's just a lot of fun in general. It also, I guess, similar to On the Trap Line, has a lot of words in indigenous languages that you learn along the way. So there's words, Michif words, and Ojibwe words that are sprinkled throughout, and you're given the pronunciation key and in the text, but also in the back of the book. So that is also an added bonus to a really fun story. So the next book I'm talking about is Unsettled by Reem Faruqi. There we go. It is a middle grade book written in verse. It is about a girl who moves with her family from Pakistan to Georgia in the United States. And as you can imagine, it's a pretty jarring transition to go from one place to the other. And she struggles fitting in. She also has some issues with dealing with racism, dealing with other kids at school because she looks and dresses differently from them. She also has a slight rivalry with her brother, who she notices is treated as the favorite in the family. Um, so this book is very powerful. The verse is really well written. Faruqi tends to write in very short lines that are very readable, but also convey quite a bit of emotion. And she also is really good at describing people and how they look and their features quite well. I really love this book, and I just kind of tore through it, so I highly recommend it. It's Unsettled by Reem Faruqi. And I see the next book I don't quite have with me right now, but I will talk about it anyways. We don't have it because it's not quite out yet. It's out in November, but that's Living with Viola. And that is a picture book by Rosina Fung. And sorry, not a picture book, it is a graphic novel, and it is about a girl who is just starting, kind of similar to Unsettled. She's starting in a new school, but in this case, it is her middle school, and she's struggling with fitting in there. And she's a second generation Chinese Canadian, and she is having trouble not only because she's having trouble making friends, but also she suffers with anxiety disorder, and that takes the shape in a shadow self who follows her wherever she goes, basically telling her kind of her worst thoughts. And on top of this, she also has a lot of pressure from her family to do well and be successful. So you can see that Liv, or the real life person of Viola, has a lot on her mind, and this character is just very relatable. It's just a very relatable struggle to try and try and be perfect, to try and do your best, but also feeling like you have a lot of doubts and thoughts that are preventing you from doing that. And this is contrasted with a lot of the beautiful illustration in the book. Rosanna has an interesting style. It's very good at showing Liv's imagination, also showing the really amazing spreads of food that are sprinkled throughout the book, because Liv loves to eat and her family eats a lot of delicious food. So there's some gorgeous spreads there. She also is able to sort of convey what Viola, the shadow self, is like, and how she's basically always following Liv everywhere. So it is really a resonant book, and also just very interesting formally. So I would really highly recommend it. That's Living Viola by Rosanna Fung. That's it for now. Thank you for listening and have a great day.